All right, we are live, up and running, and welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday, January 24th. My name is Lee Hayward, and I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition, health and wellness, any specific challenges you may be dealing with when it comes to building muscle, losing fat, and getting in your best shape. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our video chat. All right, so just getting things up and running here now and waiting for a few people to pop onto the live stream. I just started the stream a moment ago, so I know people are popping onto the live stream here. And as you're joining in, please let me know if this is coming through loud and clear on your end. I always appreciate that, just to make sure that things are coming through. Right, want to make sure. All right, we have Lee joining in. Lee's a regular to these chats. I commend you, my friend, for showing up. Right, showing up is 80% of success, as they say. So you're well on your way. But I commend you for doing that. Glad to have you joining in. Thank you for letting me know this is coming through loud and clear. We have AJ joining in again. AJ is a regular to our chats. Welcome back. Glad to have you joining. And I'll let people post in some questions and topics of discussion as you're popping on. And feel free to introduce yourself as you're joining into our live chat here today. So we're streaming from the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, from the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page. And if you're joining in from either YouTube or Facebook, you'll be able to participate on our video chat here. All right, good stuff. And just want to let you know that we have another episode of the podcast was dropped just yesterday. If you haven't already had a chance to go and check that out, you can certainly do so. And I would encourage you to follow along with those podcasts, because we really go into detail about a lot of deep topics related to getting in your best shape, related to fitness, nutrition, and the mindset and the type of person you need to be or not be, as in the case of the most recent episode. We really dove into the top 3 mistakes, or I guess I should clarify, the top 3 types of people that you don't want to be if you want to achieve a lasting fitness and fat loss transformation. And this is a big one, because I've been caught into those issues myself, and I'm speaking from experience with that one. And it was actually taken from a coaching call that I did with some of my VIP coaching students over on the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program. And this is part of the whole VIP community, is we have these regular group coaching calls. So what I did is I basically just edited down a little snippet of that call and put it into a podcast format to share, because it's some good value there. And again, just want to kind of give people a taste of what it's like if you decide to come on board and join us over on the Muscle After 40 Blueprint coaching program. AJ saying, I've got a question. Well, type it into the chat window. That's how this works. So again, for those of you who are just popping onto the live stream, welcome to the chat. I'm glad to have you joining in. The way this works is I'm going to be hanging out here for the next hour, and you can type in any questions or topics of discussion related to health and wellness, fitness and nutrition, any specific challenges that you may be going through, regardless if it's challenges with your workouts, challenges with your nutrition, challenges with building muscle, losing fat, working around injuries, any of these health and fitness type of questions that you may have. Feel free to type those into our chat window, and I'll do the best that I can to help you out over the course of our video chat. And if I can help you, of course, I'll be more than happy to do so. But if I can't, then I'm not going to leave you hanging, and I'm not going to give you a false hope or BS or anything like that. I mean, if I don't know, I'm totally cool with saying that, but I'll probably be able to point you in the right direction to someone who can help you, because I've been around the fitness game for quite a while. Like, I've been personally involved with training myself since 1990, coaching since 1997, and online since then. So, I mean, I've been around the block for a few years, and I learned a thing or two along that time frame, but I don't claim to know it all. So if I don't know the answer, or if something you're dealing with, a challenge you're going through is outside my area of expertise, I'll probably be able to recommend you to some experts or resources, because again, I have a large network of people in the fitness industry who I can probably refer you to if there's something that I can't specifically help you with. All right, so who else we have joining in? We've got Ryan joining in. Welcome. Glad to have you joining into our video chat. Who else is joining in? We got Matthew is joining in. Welcome. Glad to have you joining in as well. See some questions popping in there. And again, feel free to type in your questions. I'm going to jump into the questions now momentarily, just waiting for everybody to pop onto our live stream who are going to be joining in for our live stream here today. I see Robert is joining us. Welcome, Robert. Glad to have you joining in again. Robert's a regular to our chats. I see a lot of regulars, but if you're brand new, I want to welcome you and commend you for being here, because it's always nice to have new people joining in. And if you have any specific questions or topics that you would like to discuss, feel free to type them in. All right, let's move on. All right, okay, some questions coming through here, so let's just jump into it. Actually, one just popped through here. George saying, I'm 74 years old now. I want to pack some of the muscle. I guess I want to pack on some muscle is what he's saying. Is this possible? It depends on your situation. All right. Like generally speaking, the answer I like to give people is improvement is always possible, but it really depends on you, your circumstances and situations. I will say this. We have guys in our program right now in their 70s, and we even have one gentleman who's in his 80s who are still training, still making progress, and getting stronger and fitter. Like they're actually making progress. And one gentleman who was actually he was on participated in the last podcast episode that we did, Paul Miller. He's 70 years old and he's in the best shape of his life. I mean, he's getting better with age, and he only started training at 62. So it is possible to still make progress in your later years. Now, if you're just starting off at 74, first off, I want to commend you. I mean, that's a big accomplishment. And it is possible depending on your circumstances. Now, I don't know what your pre-existing health issues are or pre-existing mobility issues or whatever, but assuming that you're fit and healthy and you're able to go to the gym and you're able to exercise without any major mobility issues or major setbacks, you can still make progress. And I'll give you a prime example. One of the gentlemen that I was coaching in person, it was one of my in-person coaching students that I was working with. Howard's his name, and he's 76 years old, and he joined the gym. Now, it wasn't his first time. Like he had worked out in the past, for a little while, but nothing too serious. But he joined the gym and he wanted someone to show him around, like set me up on a solid action plan. So we went through a training sessions. Like we had a whole series of training sessions where I set him up on a solid total body workout program that he could follow. And we were working together for several weeks to lay out a solid action plan for him. But he's still doing that. And he's 76 years old. And it's so cool because when I run into him, I see him at the gym. I mean, he's still in there. He's going to the gym 3 times a week and he's getting stronger. I mean, he's making progress. Now, like, does he look like a bodybuilder with shredded 6-pack abs and ready to step on stage? No, but he looks a hell of a lot better than the average 76-year-old. And he's a lot fitter and more mobile. And some of the stuff that he does is quite respectable. Some of the exercises, and I mean, he's holding his own in there. So it's still possible to make progress, but it depends on you and your circumstances, right? I mean, like if somebody has pre-existing health issues or mobility issues, I mean, that's going to come into play. But, what I would recommend, I mean, go get a checkup from your doctor, make sure that everything is okay, and follow your doctor's advice on that. I mean, if they give you the okay to go to the gym and exercise, then hey, by all means, it is possible to make progress. And what I would recommend, wherever you go, it's worth it to invest in a coach or a trainer to get you set up on the right track and to shortcut the process and to prevent you from going in there and trying to learn through trial and error and potentially hurt yourself. Because I'm going to tell you this up front, the older you are, the less forgiving your body is. Like you see some young guys, like teenagers or guys in their 20s. I mean, they go in there and they're using poor form and throwing weight around, and a lot of times they get away with it because their joints are youthful and the tendons and ligaments and everything are healthy and strong, and they're very resistant to injury. Now, I'm not saying that injuries don't happen for young people, but they're more resistant to injury than people in their 70s. So you want to be extra careful. Like, treat your body with respect. The older you get, the more respect you need to treat your body with. And that's why it's important to have someone to really lay out a solid action plan, like showing you some good mobility exercises, some good flexibility exercises, show you a good warm-up routine that you can do to help prevent injury and to prepare your body so that when you do go in there and do your strength training, your cardio, and whatever you're planning on doing, you can do so without risking injury or risking setbacks along the way, right? We want to coax the body along and not risk hurting it and setting it back even further. And that's something that's unfortunately a big issue. People go in there all full of piss and vinegar with the best of intentions and push too hard too soon, hurt something, or they go in there and use poor form, poor technique, and then started off with the best of intentions to improve yourself. Now you're actually setting yourself back because, okay, you threw your back out, or you popped your shoulder out of socket, or your knees are hurting, your hips are hurting, or something like that. We don't want to hurt, right? We want to go in there and make the body stronger and healthier, not beating it up. So that's why it's important to have someone to really guide you and set you up along on a good, solid action plan. But I respect you for wanting to do that. I mean, most people in their 70s, they're not thinking about the gym. I mean, they're thinking about a nursing home, right? Well, what was the old George Jones song, right? I'm not ready for your rocking chair, right? Or your Geritol or your Medicare, right? Can't put that possum in a cage. Right? Get them in the gym. Put them in the power cage. That's where we want to do it. But anyway, kudos to you, George. I respect you for sharing that. All right, what else we got there? Let's see. Thunder Lord, what are your thoughts on Jason Blaha? I don't have many thoughts on Jason Blaha. I know he was a YouTuber back in the day years ago. I don't even know if he's still around. Quite honestly, I haven't seen or heard anything, but I know he used to be one of those guys who'd get on and share his opinions. Not always the most popular opinions, but I really don't have any thoughts on him, to be honest with you. I wasn't thinking about Mr. Blaha until you posted your comment, so we'll just leave it at that. Who else we got there? Zulio saying, is it okay to do push-pull legs instead of a 6-day a week, doing it 6 days, fitting it 10 days? All right, let me decipher that one again. Is it okay to do push-pull legs instead of 6 times a week, doing it 6 times, fitting it in 10 days? It doesn't really matter. I mean, you can go through a push-pull leg cycle if you want to do it, hit each one once a week. If you want to hit it over the course of 10 days or however you're breaking it up, your body doesn't know, like your muscles don't know what day of the week it is, right? Even though they say Monday is International Chest Day, if you're allowed to work your chest on another day, like your muscles don't say, hey, it's this day of the week and I have to train this body part on this day, or I have to train in these order of sequences. All they know is stress. You place stress on the muscles and the body has to adapt and respond in response to that stress. It doesn't matter. Like whatever you do consistently, like something's better than nothing. And I don't have it set up like the days of the week or having it all fit in like, oh, I got to make sure I get all my workouts in before the end of the week or shit, the world's going to stop spinning. It doesn't matter. Like I just have my set routine that I follow and I just go through that routine in the order of the workouts, whatever day it happens to fall on. I mean, sometimes I might get it done in a shorter period of time if I'm extra busy and got other chores and responsibilities, or if I'm feeling under the weather and I'm sick and I'm not able to make it to the gym, then I might have to space that out over a longer period of time. But it really doesn't matter, right? If you like a push-pull leg split, then just do push-pull legs and just space it out however you see fit. Ideally, it depends on your recovery ability and how hard you're pushing yourself. But I've always found with myself and a lot of my more advanced coaching students that they tend to make the best gains, especially strength and muscle gains, training every other day. And I've seen this over and over again. A lot of times, like if you train one day, take the next day off, work out one day, take the next day off, and have that full day of rest in between each strength training workout, you'll tend to make better strength and muscle gains. Now, on that day off, it doesn't mean you're not allowed to do anything, but you would do some low intensity activity on that day. Maybe like do some low intensity cardio or some mobility work or something along those lines. but I wouldn't recommend doing high intensity strength training back to back to back. It's very demanding and it's hard on the central nervous system. But if you space out those high intensity workouts, probably like every other day, and then on your non-high intensity days, you get in some low intensity activities such as low intensity cardio or some active recovery type work, that's a great way to keep yourself active and also help to spur on muscle growth while working within your body's natural recovery systems. And that's what I do myself. I'll do strength training one day and I usually do some cardio the next. And I find that allows me to keep the habit of exercise alive, but I'm not doing strength training 6 days a week. Like to me, that's overkill. Very few people can recover from that unless you have exceptionally high recovery capabilities, or you're on some sort of enhancements to speed up that recovery process. But even then, it's rare for people to make good progress training 6 days a week, right? I've often seen guys make better progress, every other day, maybe 4 days a week, something like that. That's usually like the sweet spot for most people, right? Don't neglect the recovery days. That's what I'm getting at, right? So the way you're spacing it out there, getting in more recovery days would actually be more advantageous than trying to squeeze in 6 workouts in a week. Having 6 workouts over the course of 10 days would be better. And if it takes longer than 10 days, then that's fine as well, right? You're not on a clock, put it that way. Like it doesn't matter as long as you train, rest, recover, grow, train, rest, recover, grow. That's all that matters. And you do so consistently over the long term, right? Like over the course of several weeks and over the course of several months, and then ultimately over the course of several years, right? You need to think bigger, not just getting bogged down in like, what did I do this week, right? I mean, sure, the weekly workouts will compound, but you got to think, hey, can I sustain this over the course of weeks and months and ultimately even years? That's where the real jaw-dropping transformation takes place. Like when you see someone, you look at them and you're like, holy smokes, like that person's in incredible shape. They didn't get that way in the matter of a few weeks or a few months. They've been doing that for years to get that way. And that's what you got to think bigger, right? Can I do this, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Can I still be moving forward and making progress? All right, where was I? I lost my spot there. Just a second, guys. Find my spot in our chat. AJ's question. All right. In your opinion, what would you say is the best muscle to build to give you the look of working out? I've heard it's shoulders and I have big side delts. What muscles are the show-off muscles? All right. The best muscle to build to give you the look of working out. Honestly, I can't really say that there is one muscle that's going to trump any other. One thing that I think would give you the look of working out more than anything, losing body fat. For most people, losing body fat is the single best thing that they could do. Now, again, that depends on the individual, because I know some people, like most people in society, if I'm speaking to the general population is overweight. So the single best thing that they can do if they want to look fitter and look like they actually work out or take care of their health and fitness, lose the blubber, lose the spare tire, lose the love handles, lose the man boobs, lose all that excess gelatinous mass that's surrounding you. If you lose that, you're going to look like you work out or look a hell of a lot better, and you'll be a lot healthier because of it. So that would be the single best thing for most people. Now, with that being said, there's probably a few people out there who are like, the 98-pound weakling, like the stereotypical guy that was in the back of the Charles Atlas comic, the comic book ads, the Charles Atlas one, right? Hey, getting sand kicked in your face at the beach, right? The 98-pound weakling. There's a few of those guys out there. And if you're in that situation, then obviously losing weight or losing body fat is not your main priority. It's trying to put some meat on your bones. That's a different scenario. But again, to answer your question, what's the best thing to do to build muscle and make yourself look like you work out? You have to think of the bigger picture. And I just put things in perspective. Like if you had one really good body part, but you had terrible everywhere else, like you had really big arms, but you had chicken legs, or you had really big legs and chicken arms, or you had a really big chest, but scrawny shoulders and scrawny back. Like, it doesn't work that way. You can't have one muscle and say like, oh, this is the muscle that's going to make me look like I work out. It's the total package. It really is. And when you look at like physique competitions and bodybuilding competitions, like someone who goes up there on stage with one exceptional body part is not going to place higher than someone who has a nice, well-balanced, symmetrical, and proportionate physique. So we want to think of building the body entirely and not just, oh, I got to build my biceps, or I got to build my abs, or I got to build my pecs, or I got to build my delts, or you got to build it all, right? And that's why I'm such a huge advocate of total body workouts for a lot of people. And I still do it myself because the body works as a unit. Like when you do real world activity, it's not like I'm only working my biceps, or I'm only working my legs, or I'm only working my chest. Like you go out and shovel snow, push a stuck car, cut wood, carry stuff, do physical labor. Like you're not just working a muscle group, you're working your whole entire body as a unit. Right? You look at a wrestler or a martial artist or someone like that, they're working their entire body as a unit. You look at a gymnast, they're working their entire body as a unit. So I'm a big advocate of that total body strength and conditioning, and not just trying to isolate different parts. The only time I guess isolating different parts would be advantageous is if you're a specialist, like an arm wrestler, right? And even then, I'm sure having well-balanced proportion and symmetry throughout the body would still make you a better arm wrestler. But we want to work on everything. So to answer your question, there is no singular muscle that's going to give you the look of working out. You need to have everything in balance and proportion. But if there's one thing that would give you the look more than anything, lose the fat, lose that gelatinous substance, lose the titties and the love handles and the man boobs and the spare tire, right? If you lose the soft and the mush, you're going to look like you work out. Who else we got there? Mr. Eagle Eye John says, does it help on shoulders on bench dips, hand facing outwards? Does it help on shoulders, bench dips, hand facing outwards? I'm not sure exactly which I'm just trying to think there. Bottom line, any dip variation you do, whether it's bench dips, parallel bar dips, or whatever, you're indirectly hitting your shoulders. There's no other way. Like the shoulders come into play, especially the front head of the deltoid. Anytime you do any type of pressing movement, whether it's a bench press, a dip, an overhead press, any type of press is going to engage that front head of the deltoid to a great degree. And dips especially do so, because with the dip, you're really getting that stretch. You're hitting it in that stretched position. Sometimes it stimulates the shoulders, but you got to be careful of not overstretching it, because the shoulder can be very fragile or easily injured if you overstretch it, like you go too deep into a dip. It's something I've become more cautious on, especially as I've gotten older and I've had a few nagging shoulder injuries over the years. Very cautious on not overstretching a dip and also not going too heavy. I would rather use lighter weight and more time under tension versus doing really heavy weighted dips. Like sometimes I see people doing, loading up crazy weight with dips, and I just cringe because I'm saying like that shoulder could pop at any moment, right? So just be careful with it. That's all I'm saying. But you're definitely going to hit the shoulders on any dip variation you do. And regardless of how you position your hands, you're still going to engage the shoulders. I think the hand position is mostly a personal preference thing. What feels best for you with like your elbows and your hands and your wrists and everything else. I mean, you can play around with how you position your hands. But when I'm doing bench dips, I usually just keep my hands pretty much in a neutral position against the bench pad behind me. And it also helps too to have a good solid bench. And what I mean by that is different benches have different squishinesses to the pad. You know what I'm talking about? Like the pad you lie on, some of them might be softer and more squishy than others. When I'm doing a bench dip and you're resting your hands on the bench, I like to have one that has a good solid pad, preferably, versus one that's a bit squishy, because I find that the squishy can cause your hands to move or rotate a little bit. Whereas if you have a good solid one, that's the pad is dense and thick, I find that it just helps to place a more secure grip on your hands, and less likely that you'll roll your hands or just get out of groove. All right, who else we got there? Let's see. Dr. Kronk. All right. Always a joy to see you live. Well, thank you, Mr. Dr. Kronk. I'm glad to have you joining in. All right. Dr. Kronk. George saying nice. Yeah, well, I'm glad to help out, George. And you know what? I again, George was a guy 74 years old, wants to pack on some muscle. I respect that. And you know what? I'm hoping, God willing, that I'm going to be in my 70s and wanting to do the same thing, right? Get better with age. I love it. In fact, my father reached out to me today and wants to get back into working out. And he's going to be, is he 73 or 74? His birthday's next month, and I'm trying to think: is he going to be 73 or is he going to be 74? I can't remember. No, he's going to be 74. Yeah, he is. He'll be 74 next month. Okay, and he reached out to me asking, hey Lee, can I start going to the gym with you again? Like, I want to get back in shape. I'm feeling a bit fat and sluggish and all that. So hopefully, get him back on the bandwagon. And myself and my dad actually did some workout videos. They're several years old now, but you can still check them out on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. Just do a search for father and son workout. So you can, like, Lee Hayward, father and son workout, and they should pop up there. There's probably some other videos of me and my son working out on my channel as well, but still, there was a 3-video playlist that we did together. It was quite popular, and we did a few years back, but hoping to get them back on the bandwagon again. All right, let's see what else we got there. Lee Dunnigan's got a question. Says, I try and stretch regularly, but I find it's not enough. I've been looking into doing deeper stretches, like stretching with light weight to get more of a stretch. Do you think it's a good idea? Yes, it is. You can certainly incorporate stretching with weights. If you would like a program to actually help you with that, my good friend Nick Nilsson recently wrote a new book. He just put out a new program called Return to Prime. We did a podcast a couple weeks ago. So if you go to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding podcast and scroll through, it was, what was the name of the podcast? Advanced Strength Training or something like that. But it was a podcast. If you just do a search for Lee Hayward, Nick Nielsen, it should pop up there. But it's like literally just 2 podcasts ago. So it's one of the more recent ones. I would highly recommend you check that out, and also get yourself a copy of Nick's new program, Return to Prime, because he has a full phase in that program which involves stretching with weights, and it outlines a complete structured program that you can follow. But that is something that you can do, but you need to do it properly, and you need to do it in a progressive overload fashion. So stretching with weights is a great way to help improve not only stretching and flexibility and mobility, but it's also really good from a hypertrophy point of view. The stretch aspect of training is something that's getting a lot more attention these days, and they're realizing the power of working within that stretched position from a hypertrophy point of view. And when you look back at some of the the old school bodybuilders and that, who did deep range of motion, like fully stretched pec flies or full ass to the ground squats, and sometimes sissy squats with extreme ranges of motion, and dumbbell pullovers with a deep range of motion. Some of those guys had incredible development in the areas that they really focused on getting that active stretching, and that's a big aspect of strength and conditioning. So yeah, you can certainly incorporate stretching with weights, and if you want a full program, again, I would recommend listening to that podcast that myself and Nick did, but also picking up a copy of his book. It's called Return to Prime. And it's specifically geared for a more mature audience. It's a program geared for guys in their 40s, 50s, and beyond. And to put things in perspective, Nick is 51 years old now, and he's still getting stronger. Some of the feats of strength that he's doing now at 51, I just find mind-blowing. Literally doing power rack lockout work with, I'm not exaggerating, literally upwards of 1,000 pounds in power rack lockout squats and stuff like that. It's just mind-boggling, some of the weights that he's using. And it's I know it sounds a lot, but this is something he's been building up to over the course of years. So it's not, you're not just going to jump in and do that instantly. But when you look at the big picture, it's mind-blowing, the strength that he's able to been developed through that style of training that he covers in the Return to Prime program. And stretching is one of the big aspects of that as well. What else we got? Excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat. Keep myself hydrated. George is saying, I want to mostly I want to tone up again, gain strength, and my joints are bone on bone. All right, yeah, you definitely. I mean, I can appreciate that, but this is where proper training technique and having a good structured program and getting set up on the right track is going to help. Because if your joints are not like you don't want to aggravate those joints. That's what I'm getting at, right? Strength training, when done properly and done in a progressive overload fashion, will help to build up the natural joint cartilage, strengthen the tendons and ligaments. But it has to be done the right way, because it's a fine line. It's like walking a tightrope or walking the razor's edge. Because while you can stimulate progress, you can also do too much and then risk injuring yourself and actually setting yourself back. So in this early phase of training, be extra conservative, like err on the conservative side. And this applies for anybody, regardless of age. But when you're starting off a new workout routine, you should not leave the gym feeling exhausted or feeling beat up. Like you should actually leave the gym feeling like I could do more. If like that was easy, I feel I can do more. I know it's kind of counterintuitive because we think like no pain, no gain, go hard, or go home, that type of bullshit. But when you're starting off, you just want to coax the body along and not try and like destroy yourself and empty the tank every time. Like a saying that I like to use when I'm coaching people is, we want to keep it below red line. Like we don't want to go in there and just go balls to the wall, super high intensity and kill yourself. Like leave some in the tank. Like leave a bit of reps in reserve, as they say, but leave a little bit in the tank. And you should actually end your workout feeling like you could do more if you had to. And by doing that, it helps to speed up the recovery process because you're not destroying your body each time. It allows you to be more consistent and build the habit of proper exercise into your routine. But it's also good for the joints, tendons, and ligaments, because it's not just the muscles. Like your muscles may be recovered, but a lot of times your joints, tendons, and ligaments are not. And very often, especially as people get older, you might not have any muscle soreness, but you got a lot of joint pain. And that takes time to recover as well. So that's why it's good to ease yourself into it and be okay with that. Like give yourself permission to do easy workouts, but do so in a progressive overload fashion. So you can still progress going easy. It's like, okay, I went easy and now I just do like easy +1. And then next time, easy +2. Like just build it up. So it always still feels like easy, but you're gradually building up the easy each week. Right? And this makes it so much more fun and enjoyable, because like I know it sounds cool and it makes for a nice like Instagram meme when you see people saying like, no pain, no gain, or all that stuff. But in reality, like who wants to be in pain, right? Nobody does. And that's part of the reason why most people don't work out, is because they think it's painful. But if you can set it up in such a way where it's actually enjoyable and not painful, you're going to want to do it. And especially once you see your body start to respond, you're going to want to do it consistently. And I mean, this is the type of stuff and the principles that we cover within the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program. Like the common thing I hear from a lot of the guys who are going through this and actually they've been doing it long enough to start to see the results and the fruits of their labor, is they're like, this is so much more enjoyable than what I was doing before. Like, why did I ever let myself get fat and out of shape when being fit can feel so good? Like it doesn't have to be a chore. It doesn't have to be a burden. It can actually be a very enjoyable act, something that you look forward to, but you have to do it properly. Right. But again, I respect you for wanting to do that, George. Good for you, man. JE's got a question. He says, when I do Romanian deadlifts, my hamstrings are sore for 3 to 5 days. Should I reduce sets or should I just get used to it? It's the good soreness. Initially, you're probably going to have that prolonged soreness, like especially if this is a new exercise for you or something you're just adding into your routine, you're probably going to get that prolonged soreness. But the more you do it, the more your body's going to adapt and condition to the exercise, and eventually the less soreness you're going to get. But in the meantime, you can either back off the weight a little bit, back off the intensity, back off the sets. Like, again, I don't know exactly what you're doing as far as training, volume, sets, reps, and weight and all that stuff. But if you're feeling pain right now, then probably just back off, or at least maintain what you're currently doing now and not always trying to go harder. Like just kind of let your body adapt to the exercise and really focus on the technique and feeling the muscles work. Like the Romanian deadlift, even though it's a deadlift, it's not really a power exercise. It's more of a mind muscle connection exercise. And I want you to focus on really feeling that muscle stretch and contract and using proper form and getting that mind muscle connection versus just moving heavy weight. So really focus on that. And sometimes even lightening up the weight is the best thing, because with that exercise, if you try to lift too heavy, sometimes you don't get that mind muscle connection because you're just focusing on moving weight from point A to point B. But when you use a more conservative or more moderate weight, now you can really use the proper technique. You can activate the muscles and get comfortable with the exercise and not just simply trying to strain to move weight. Right? So you can use it as a muscle building move, not just a weight moving move, if you will. But that should ease up over time. Like as the weeks go by, that soreness should become less and less. It's very rare for someone to do the same workouts or the same exercise and to continue to get this ongoing muscle soreness week after week after week. It's usually only in the initial phase when you get the most soreness. But as your body conditions to it, adapts, and grows in response to it, the less muscle soreness you'll get. Now, you may still get a little bit, but it won't be that extreme delayed onset muscle soreness where it hurts to move the next day, or it hurts to sit on the toilet, or hurts to walk up a flight of stairs. You know what I'm talking about? Like, we don't want that kind of pain. I mean, everyone's going to get it from time to time, but it's not something we should be striving for or having on a regular basis. Like, that should be the exception, not the rule. Like, a little bit of a dull ache in the muscles after you train is okay, but we don't want that extreme painness, or the extreme pain that lasts for days. Let's see what else. John says, I saw you at the gym last Sunday. I was working out next to you for a few minutes. You were alternating between bench press and tricep dips. A little intimidating, but very inspiring at the same time. Thanks for all you do for this lifestyle. I appreciate that, John. And yeah, I remember you. I was actually, that was a training phase taken from Nick Nilsson's program, Return to Prime. This was the angiogenesis phase, where you're alternating very lightweight, high repetition, and then not very, but heavier weight, low repetition. So you're basically working slow twitch and fast twitch muscles back to back. So I would literally take the bench press, and the one that you were referring to is that really deep stretch bench press machine that they have, or chest press machine at Omega. And I was just using lightweight and pumping out high reps, like shooting for 20 plus reps a set, at least 20, really getting that fatigue and the slow twitch muscle fibers. And then instantly I'd go over to the dip machine and I just do 2 reps with a heavier weight. So, and then back to back. Like, the only rest was the time it took to go from one machine to the next. So like, we're talking seconds in between each set. But it's amazing how, like, you can fatigue the slow twitch fibers and then instantly be able to do heavier weight with the fast twitch fibers. Like, it makes no sense, but when you actually do this, it's like, holy crap, this is crazy. And I'll give you another example. I was doing this, Nick refers to it as angiogenesis training in his program, and he has a full phase dedicated to it. And the muscle pump I got from it was insane. But I was using the seated row machine, and I was doing high rep sets with 90 pounds on the weight stack. So like 20, 30 rep sets with 90 pounds on the seated row. And then I went to, so that was with 90 pounds. And then I'd instantly go to, I was 190. And I bang out 2 reps, like more explosively, like in a fast twitch muscle fibers. And then I instantly go back to the high reps and then alternate back and back for several rounds. I probably do like 6 or more rounds like that. But what's mind blowing is how you can turn on and off the different muscle fibers. So like, I would literally fatigue and hit momentary failure with 90 pounds, take a couple seconds to change the weight to 190, which, like, if I just failed with 90, how the hell are you supposed to lift 190? Like, that doesn't make sense. Switch the weight and then instantly be able to bang out 2 reps with the heavier weight, because you're working different muscle fibers. Even though it's the same muscle, you're working the different fibers. And this was like mind blown. Like, I know some people are probably listening to this and saying this is all bullshit. It doesn't make sense, but I'm telling you, like, I actually was following this from Nick's program, and it was like this big light bulb moment. Like, this is stuff that I never ever thought of or did. I mean, I've been at this for over 30 years, and like this was like, whoa, this is right. Total shocker. But the pump was insane, and I also the soreness that I experienced afterwards was pretty insane because normally I don't get that deep level of soreness, but I did after following that training. But again, after doing it for a few workouts, now that extreme soreness is starting to subside as my body is adapting to that style of training. But it just really goes to show, like, there's always another level, if you're open-minded and willing to learn. So I know, like, a lot of people, they have this closed-minded mindset, like, oh, I know what to do. I've been at this a long time. You don't tell me anything new. I know what to do. And they're just like a closed book. Whereas I always try to approach things with a beginner's mind. Right? Like I always try to have that open book mentality where, like, hey, there's another way, there's a better way, there's always going to be continuous advancements, and I don't have this I know it all attitude, because I find as soon as you say, like, I know that, I have that know it all attitude, you really close off learning. So I was really grateful that Nick took the time to explain this to me when we did our podcast interview. And also, we've been messaging back and forth through Messenger as I've been going through it. He's been coaching me as I'm going through it, and it's been really, really insightful. So again, for those of you who are more advanced with your training and you want to try something new, definitely check out that program, Return to Prime. Highly recommend it. What else we got there? We have Kali joining in. Welcome to the chat. Glad to have you joining in again. We have Neil joining in, a regular as well. He says, how is that slowing the entire rep, including the concentric, like 2 to 3 seconds? It feels smooth for the pressing exercise, and slight pain on the shoulder will not trigger. Let me read that again. How is it that slowing the entire rep, including the concentric, like 2 to 3 seconds, it feels smooth for the pressing exercise, and the slight pain on the shoulder will not trigger? Okay, I think I understand what you're saying there. Slowing down the tempo doesn't aggravate your joints as much, your shoulder joint. I think that's what you're getting at. If that works, slowing down the tempo doesn't cause aggravation to your shoulders, then guess what? Slow down the tempo, right? That's another strategy that you can utilize to work around aches and pains and niggles and all that kind of stuff. Like I always say, if an exercise hurts, don't do it. Find another variation. And the tempo is literally another variation. So, for example, like maybe you're doing shoulder presses and you're being very fast and explosive, that may cause pain. But if you use a slower tempo and muscle the weight up instead of jarring the joints with a faster tempo, what's happening is you're placing more stress on the muscles and less on the joints, tendons, and ligaments. So that's probably what you're experiencing. And I can relate to that with certain exercises. Like, maybe your elbows or knees or something hurts when you do like a heavy jarring movement, especially if you're trying to be very fast and explosive. It can place strain on those joints, tendons, and ligaments. But then if you slow down that tempo and you actually have more time under muscular tension and not just stressing the joints, it actually feels easier and doesn't aggravate the pain. So yeah, I mean, that's, again, who knows the exact what's going on in your specific situation and what kind of pain you're having, but I can relate to what you're talking about. I've seen that happen for myself, and sometimes that's why I find that using better form and a slower tempo allows you to get more muscle tension and more muscle fatigue and less stress on the joints. And of course, the older you get, the more important that is, because it's so common as people get older to feel like it's not the muscles that slow you down or hinder your progress, it's the joints. Like I find with a lot of my workouts now, like there's muscle strength there, but I just feel like my joints don't want to support it, or that they get achy to the point where I can't support it the same. Right? That some of you guys who are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and beyond, who knows, you can probably relate to what I'm talking about. Like the older you get, sometimes those joints just don't feel like they can support the same weight. I mean, I certainly feel that way. Like the muscle strength and power is there, but the joints don't want to cooperate sometimes. Right? And I find that being smarter with your workouts, and again, slower form or slower tempo, better form, very often you're using more muscle stress instead of placing the stress on your joints, tendons, and ligaments. I was thinking like you want to muscle the weight up, not just heave it up and have your joints to support it. All right. John's saying, I have to look into Nick's program. Sounds really interesting. Yeah, it is. I mean, I'll be totally honest, it's not something I would do as a lifestyle program. Like this return to prime is not what I would do as my day in, day out, go into the gym program. It's something that you would throw in as like a unique specialization phase or something to just kind of change up your workouts and provide some unique muscle stimulation. It's not something I would do as a regular, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Hey, this is my plan forever. But it's a nice change of pace. And that's what I'm using it as. I'm using it as a change of pace, incorporating some of the different styles. But so far, I got to say, I'm very impressed. And every time I talk with Nick, it's just like, this guy's on another level. Like he's been around the iron game for 30 plus years and very well educated, not just educated in terms of book smart, but educated in terms of just time under the barbell and real world experience smart. And he really knows his shit. Right? I got a lot of respect for him. All right, who else is joining in? Is there any other questions coming through there? According to the chat comments there, I believe that's all that I have right now. And if that's cool, like if that's all the questions that are coming through, I'm totally cool with ending the chat early. I have no problem with that. But okay, as soon as I spoke too soon because there's more popping through here. Speaking of older, do people in their 60s, is there any exercises they should avoid or weights they should not use? That is really an individual thing. And I'm not going to say that there's exercises someone should avoid or shouldn't do. It really depends on the individual. And I know a lot of you probably hate those type of answers, but it's true because we just can't paint everybody with the same brush and say, oh, you're 60 years old, you can't do this or you can do that or whatever. Like I know some people in their 60s who can freaking run circles around me. I mean, I can't keep up with them. And I'm serious. Like they're in all kinds of areas, whether it's strength training, endurance training. Like there's one guy that I ride with, Derek. I don't know if you're watching this or not. We're friends on Facebook. He might be watching through Facebook. But we went for a big, massive bike ride this summer. It was a personal best bike ride for both of us. It was 220-kilometer ride. We did the Bacaloo Trail and we went on down to Greats Cove. Any Newfoundlanders watching, they know where I'm talking about. For those of you who are not from Newfoundland, you're like, where the frick is he talking about? It's in Newfoundland. But anyway, myself and Derek and another gentleman, Eric, we went on a big bike ride, 220 kilometers. I couldn't keep up with it. Like Derek is 60 years old, and I was struggling to keep up with him, especially during the second half of that ride. Right? I mean, he's in just phenomenal shape. For 60 years old. Like, hats off, man. Like that's incredible. And even at the gym, like I'm seeing some guys who are pushing their older, like 50s and 60s and beyond. And I'm like, man, like kudos to you. You're like, you're putting the young guys to shame. So you can't just paint everybody with the same brush and say, hey, you're old, you can't do this anymore. Right? It depends on the individual. Like I know some people in their 60s who are in phenomenal shape, and I know some people in their 60s who are should be looking for a nursing home and everything in between. You know what I mean? So it really depends. Right? What I will say is for someone who's starting off, as I mentioned earlier, start off conservative, get a coach, get someone to actually show you the way and work with you personally, set you up on a solid program. Like the worst thing to do is someone to go into the gym with no experience, no knowledge and say, I'm just going to figure it out on my own. Like, what are your odds? I mean, sure, you may figure it out on your own, but you can shortcut that learning process so much by actually having someone to guide you. Right? It's like me buying an instrument, like buying a guitar and saying, I'm just going to figure out how to play this thing on my own. I mean, how hard can it be? Right? There's 6 strings. I just strum them and somehow music comes out. Yes, you can self-teach yourself, but the problem with self-taught is a lot of times you're self-teaching yourself bad habits and mistakes. And even though you may make music come out of that thing, it could be a lot better if you actually had someone to show you the proper way right from the start. And that's where, in the world of strength training, that can save you months. It can probably even save you years, and it can save you a lot of potential injuries and aches and pains along the way. It can shortcut the learning process and amplify your progress. So, for anyone who's starting off, I would recommend getting a good coach. That would be the single biggest hack you could do to speed up your process and make better gains, and also make it more enjoyable as well. And then having a good coach, that's someone who can evaluate you, your body, your mobility, and just decide like, hey, this exercise is not a good one for you because maybe you got some back issues or some shoulder issues. So hey, I don't want you getting under a heavy barbell for squats. We're going to do some a machine variation instead, maybe a leg press machine, or maybe like a pendulum squat machine, or leg extensions or something like that. We're not going to put a loaded barbell on your back. Or maybe someone got some shoulder issues and say, you know what, hey, that bench press is probably not going to be good for the shoulders, but you might be able to get away with this chest press machine instead, right? Someone who can help guide you and to work with you in your individual situation, right? All right, what else we got there? Have you ever done Pilates? Not really. No, I have not. I've done yoga, but I've not done Pilates. Right? Is there room for improvement, right? Next thing in Total Fitness Pilates. What's this? Is Steve Reeves short rest workouts? Is Steve Reeves short rest workouts? You want to elaborate on that? I don't know what you mean. Like, does he use short rest? I really don't know. I'm sure he probably did a lot. Like, he probably tried short rest. He probably tried longer rest. It depends on what you're training for. Again, if you want to elaborate on your question, I'll give you a chance to elaborate on it there. But I'm just going to just talk about rest periods between sets here, because this can be helpful for a lot of people. Rest periods between sets are another variable that you can manipulate that'll have a huge impact on your training that most people don't even consider. Most people don't time their rest periods between sets. They just, when I feel like doing another set, I do another set. And sure, that can get you by. And from a beginner's point of view or an intermediate point of view, you can still make great progress without even giving any conscious awareness to rest periods between sets. But the more advanced you get, the more this can have an impact and can take your workouts to that next level. And the general rule of thumb is, when you're looking at strength and power athletes, people who are trying to maximize the weight they lift, like power lifters, strongman competitors, those type of athletes, they take very long rest periods during their heavy attempts. And when I talk about long rest periods, like, it's not uncommon to see 5-minute rests in between max effort attempts, sometimes even longer, depending on the exercise, the situation, and everything else. But multiple minutes in between attempts for heavy max effort, strongman type work. For bodybuilders, they're more concerned about the pump, the time under tension. So they want shorter rest periods so that they can accumulate the blood and the fatigue in the muscles and actually get a pump. So they generally like 1 to 2 minutes for most bodybuilding exercises. Sometimes they might be like for smaller exercises, they might be like 1 minute between sets, or even less in some cases. For bigger exercises, it might be a couple minutes, but it's usually in that like 1 to 2 minute range for most bodybuilding hypertrophy type workouts. And then if you get into more muscular endurance and conditioning, like CrossFit and similar types of activities like that, then the rest periods are very short. It's kind of like moving from one movement to another, almost like in a circuit fashion. And that's not really focusing on muscle hypertrophy and strength, but it's more on the muscular endurance and the conditioning side. And all of these have advantages. It's not like one is right, wrong, good, or bad. It all depends on the situation and what it is that you're training for. Like for a strong man, obviously long rest periods and max effort attempts, that's going to help them be better at strongman. If we're looking at like an Olympic wrestler, they might want to do more CrossFit style training and short rest periods and high volume and building up that fatigue and that lactic acid, because that's going to condition their body for the type of training that they're going to be doing in a wrestling match or an MMA fight or someone like that. So you can vary the rest periods between sets depending on what it is you're trying to achieve, right? It's not a one size fits all, everybody got to do the same thing. All right. Where was I? I lost my space there. I lost my place. We have King Live 25. Welcome to the chat. We have Art joining in. Welcome, Art. Storyteller. Hello. Art saying, I like yoga, but I also like Tai Chi. You know what? I've never done Tai Chi myself, but I have respect for stuff like that. Like these gentle forms of exercise. I know a lot of people think it's a waste of time or a lot of. There's a time and a place for that. Like it's like the yin and the yang, right? The hard and the soft, the high intensity, the low intensity. There's definitely a time and a place for stuff like that, and I do have respect for that. Question: should I do my leg day? Yes. Don't skip legs. I don't know. Question: should I do my once per year leg day during the first or the second part of the year? All right. If it's a once per year leg day, it doesn't matter, but you should do leg day. I would recommend at least once a week, right? At least take one day of the week to train legs. And there's another way you can do it as well. Like you can have a dedicated leg day, or you can do a little bit of leg exercise with each workout. I've seen that approach work well as well. Like instead of saying like, oh, I hate training legs, whatever, just do one leg exercise each time you go to the gym. Like even if you're, all you want to do is work your upper body, cool, focus on your upper body. But hey, I'm going to start off, I'm going to do a set of leg extensions or a few sets of leg extensions. That's going to be my leg exercise. Then I'm going to go and do my upper body routine. And then next day, well, okay, I'm going to go do some squats or leg presses. Then get that one leg exercise done out of the way, and then go on, do my upper body routine. Like even if you just spaced it in, like drip fed some leg exercises in that way, that's a hell of a lot better than skipping legs entirely. And very often, I mean, you could even make some good progress by doing a little bit of legs like that frequently. But don't neglect legs. However you do it, whether you have a leg day or you space it out like I suggested. But I mean, they're the biggest muscle in the body. I mean, and when you get strong legs, that's going to help to amplify your metabolism, help amplify hormone production. I mean, like that growth that you experience from the legs, that's going to help to speed up growth and the metabolism all over. One more question here. Do you take a protein shake after a workout? If so, what do you take? Personally, I don't. I just have my next solid food meal. I just want to talk on that for a moment because that's a good question. Back in the day, and when I say back in the day, throughout the 90s, early 2000s, there was a big push on the post-workout shake. Like, oh, you got to have a post-workout shake because that's the anabolic window. So like within 30 seconds of your last rep of your last set, once you put the weight down, you got to gulp down a shake that contains 75 grams of simple carbohydrates and a serving of protein, and probably have a serving of creatine in there as well. And you got to get that in you within 35 seconds after your last rep, or all your muscle gains are like a fart in the wind and gone, and the workout was a waste of time. And that's a crock of shit. Right? That was nice hype for the supplement companies to sell their post-workout shakes and crap. All right. And it worked, because how often would you go into the gym? Like I remember back in the day, guys be in there with all their containers and their shaker cups and mixing shit up in the locker room and chugging it down right after their workouts. Some still do, but you don't have to have a post-workout shake. And post-workout shakes, even though there is a time and a place for them, I mean, they can be beneficial. It's not the end-all be-all. What matters most is your overall nutrition. How much are you consuming and what are you consuming over the course of the day, over the course of the week, over the course of the month? Like, what's your overall nutrition look like? Not just what are you gulping down right after your workout? Like, I would much rather see someone have a solid meal plan and they're meeting their protein intake, getting a gram of protein per pound of body mass per day, eating well-balanced meals throughout the day, getting in their veggies and their healthy fats and all that high nutrient non-processed food, that is going to have much more of an impact on your results than eating like shit and then gulping down a protein shake. Right? Like you got to look at the bigger picture and order of priority. Another thing that's even more important too, pre-workout nutrition is more important than post-workout nutrition. And a lot of people, this is kind of like a game changer, because we're so used to saying, well, after I work out, then I need to replenish what I burnt. So, people will go in and even sometimes do fasted workouts thinking, well, I'm going to train fasted and I'm going to burn all this body fat because I'm fasted. And then afterwards, I'm going to replenish afterwards. Well, that kind of doesn't make sense. Like, why do you want to have all that energy in your body after you worked out? It's like me, like, I'm going to have a big cup of coffee or a big pre-workout after my workout, right? Like I just went in the gym and I trained hard. Now I'm going to slam back a bunch of caffeine after my workout is over. Like, wouldn't it be better to have that nutrition in you before the workout, so you actually have some fuel to run on to help fuel the training session versus saving it for after? So if you're looking at pre-workout versus post-workout, pre-workout nutrition is way more important than post-workout. I would rather see someone get in a good solid meal, an hour or so before their training session and have that fuel their workout versus getting hung up on, well, what do I have after the workout? And another thing you got to look at it too is food isn't instantly digested. Like it takes a while to break down and digest and get absorbed in your body. So if you have a good pre-workout meal, that's still breaking down and being absorbed throughout the workout itself and even after as well. So the fastest way to get post-workout nutrition in your body is to start with pre-workout nutrition, because it's breaking down and getting released into the bloodstream after the workout is over as well. So I'm more of an advocate and a fan of pre-workout nutrition than post-workout. Right? And for me personally, I don't have a post-workout shake. I'll just eat my next solid food meal. Now, where that would vary is if you're doing multiple training sessions a day. Like in the case of an athlete, let's say an athlete is doing 2-a-day sessions, or I got game practice in the morning and a weight training workout in the afternoon, or vice versa. That's when you could switch it up. So for example, like you did a weight training workout in the morning, you want to get some fast absorbing nutrients to help replenish. That's where post-workout shakes and fast absorbing nutrients can help, because that'll help speed up the replenishment. So then you're fueled up for your second training session of the day in the afternoon. So in a way, that post-workout shake in the morning is then a pre-workout shake for the next workout in the day. In situations like that, having fast absorbing food, like again, fast absorbing protein in form of shakes, fast absorbing carbohydrates, that can be advantageous. But for the average person who's working out once a day or once every other day, it really doesn't matter, because your regular meals are going to top up your glycogen stores and provide adequate nourishment for recovery. It's only for people who are pushing like multiple sessions a day, like 2-a-day sessions or something like that, where post-workout nutrition really plays a role. All right, there's still a few more questions coming through, but I'm going to get ready and clue this up shortly, because it is getting late here on my end. What else we got? I'm going to answer a couple more. Jason says he is watching and walking on the treadmill. Good stuff. Exercising the body and educating the mind. Much respect. I do that a lot too. Like when you see me in the gym, if I got earbuds in and I'm listening to something, it's probably like a podcast or an audiobook or something along those lines. I rarely listen to music. I'm trying to educate myself more than anything. All right, saying about a year ago, I entered an old fart powerlifting competition and came in third for my age group, 70 to 75 in the deadlift. Hope to try it again this coming fall and take the gold. That's awesome. Fuck. Way to go, buddy. I like that. You should be proud of yourself, right? The old fart powerlifting competition came in third. So goes to show, guys, hey, if you're between 70 and 75, you can qualify for the old fart powerlifting competition. Oh, I love it. Absolutely. You know what? When I'm in my 70s, I'll probably be signing up for the old fart powerlifting competition. Right? Be happy to do it. How do you get a Batman physique? Right, how do you get a Batman physique? Chase the Joker. I don't know. It's in the script, right? CGI. That's how Batman gets their physiques. CGI and fancy editing, right? Special effects on the big screen. That's where Batman's power comes from. Let's see what else we got there. All right, saying you're going to switch to sumo in the next event. Sumo grip. I guess you mean sumo stance in the next event. You know what? When it comes to deadlift stance, it's good to train both, like a conventional and sumo. And there's all kinds of different variations. Like it could be a wide sumo, narrow sumo, and you could do. There's a gazillion different deadlift variations. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that, but as far as conventional and sumo, some people are stronger conventional, some people are stronger sumo. It varies. It's just like some people are right-handed, some people are left-handed. Like it's not universal. I know some people say, "Oh, sumo's easier because it's wider and your back is more upright and whatever." Not necessarily. When I was doing deadlifts and when I was powerlifting, I was always stronger with the conventional. I trained both, but I could pull more with a conventional deadlift than I could with a sumo. Now, I still trained the sumo because I found as I got stronger with that stance, it also helped to carry over and make me stronger with the conventional as well. But if I was going to max out, I could always pull more weight with a conventional deadlift than a sumo. So if you're going to switch stances, then it should be for a reason. Because obviously when you're at a competition, you want to be doing your strongest and whatever's going to allow you to perform your best. So if you're pulling stronger with the conventional, then that's fine. Compete and do the conventional. But you can still train the sumo when you're in the gym because that will help to. It's like a good supplementary and assistant exercise because as you get stronger with the sumo, it will carry over and vice versa. But use your strongest stance when you're competing. Let's see what else we got. Mike saying, I've been consuming a lot of caffeine, 1 to 2 grams a day. Should I be concerned about my adrenal glands? Frig, yes. You're right. That is a lot. Like 1 to 2 grams, that's 1 to 2,000 milligrams. That is a lot. I actually was having this conversation on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group, I believe it was. Yeah, it was. People were talking about caffeine and stuff. And I've went through a phase back in the day where I was consuming a lot of caffeine. Now, not as much as you are. Like I was around 1,000 milligrams a day for a while, and that was a lot. And I've tapered it down significantly. So for me now, my caffeine consumption is 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day max. Like I don't consume any pre-workouts. I don't consume caffeine pills or anything with caffeine. My caffeine of choice is 2, maybe 3 cups of coffee. Like that's pushing it. 3 cups. 2 is usually my max per day. And that's where I like to keep it. And I found that since I've started to tailor back the caffeine consumption, I feel a lot better. I sleep better, not as jittery. That's something to be concerned with. So I would gradually, start to taper. And depending on how you're consuming that caffeine, I'll give you some strategies that will make it easier to taper. Decaf coffee. Like if you're a coffee drinker and you just love the taste of the bean, decaf coffee is a godsend because you can still enjoy that hot cup of coffee without the caffeine. So that's something that I do. Like when I say I'll have 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day, that's 2 to 3 real coffee, but I'll sometimes have more if I want it because I just love coffee. I love the taste of coffee. But I'll have decaf. So what I usually do is like in the AM, I'll have my regular coffee, but in the PM, if I want a cup of coffee, then I always go with decaf. Now, decaf is not true decaf, meaning it's not exactly 0 caffeine, but it's very low. Like you're talking like single digit milligrams per cup versus 100 plus milligrams per cup in a regular. So, that's a great way to start scaling back if you're a coffee drinker. If you're consuming pre-workouts and things like that, then is a simple solution. Go half a serving. Like I found these, like even when I was consuming pre-workouts, like a lot of them were just way too high in caffeine. It's almost like a pissing match for caffeine these days. Like each pre-workout is like, ours got more than the next guy. Like I remember back in the day, like 100 milligrams of caffeine was like a lot. And then 200, 300, 400, 500. I mean, I don't know where it ends, but it's just people are just stacking caffeine, like saying more caffeine, more stimulants. You want to be careful with that. So start scaling that back. I mean, if you are consuming pre-workouts, half a scoop instead of a full scoop or something like that. Same with the energy drinks and stuff, like swapping out just a regular soda, like a diet soda with no caffeine versus, the Red Bull or the Monster or whatever the heck you're consuming that has loaded with caffeine. Try and find some low caffeine variations and start to taper yourself off. But I wouldn't recommend going cold turkey because you'll literally go through withdrawal symptoms. I've tried that before. I went a cold turkey caffeine detox before, and I felt like shit. Like you go from feeling normal or you're caffeinated normal to all of a sudden like headaches and fatigue, and like for a week you won't even want to get out of bed. Like you'll just your body's just going to not function. So I would recommend tapering it off versus trying to go cold turkey. Right? But it's something I would, if I was in that situation, I would seriously start acting like ASAP, taking action to taper that off and focus on, like, over the coming weeks and months, try to get that down to a like 500 milligram per day max, somewhere around there. And I think you would feel a lot better because of it. But no, I appreciate you for sharing that. I mean, like that's something that's more and more common, and even among young people. Like it's crazy. Like I remember a relative of mine, like someone, a teenager, like a niece of mine. She was on a road trip with some friends, and she said, "Oh yeah, I drank 4 Monster energy drinks on this like 3-hour road trip." Like, do you realize like how much caffeine that is in the course of like 3 hours? Like, I would be bouncing off the freaking walls if I consumed that much. It's just mind blowing. Right? So you definitely want to be careful of it. It's a very abused drug. I mean, caffeine is a drug. All right, guys, I'm going to get ready and clue it up. I know there's still a couple other questions coming through. Oh, geez, there's a lot of questions coming through, actually. Right, storytellers saying safe upper limit 400 milligrams a day. That's usually where I try to keep myself within. Right, I try to stay in that range, and 2 to 3 cups of coffee. Of course, coffee is not an exact measurement because it depends on the brand and how strong it's brewed and everything else, but it's probably within those guidelines, the 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day. Assuming you're talking real coffee, like not going to Starbucks and getting these friggin' 20-ounce Monster like that. That's ridiculous. That's not a cup of coffee. That's a pot, right? When you're getting these 20-ounce coffees and people say, "Oh, I only have 1 coffee a day," right? Bullshit, man. That's like pouring a whole pot into a friggin' container and drinking it and considering that a cup. When I say a cup, I'm talking about like maybe 150 milligrams of caffeine per coffee. 2 to 3 a day. 3 would be the upper limit for sure. But yeah, try to keep it under control. All right. You guys, other people chiming in about the caffeine here. This is my doctor found that I have a racing heart sensitivity due to caffeine, so I switched to decaf and reduced other sources, and the racing heart went back to normal. Cool. I appreciate you for sharing that. Yeah. A lot of people are sensitive to it, especially if you have like trouble sleeping or anxiety or stuff like that. I mean, who knows? I mean, that could be part of the reason. Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to get ready and clue it up. Vera says, "I do appreciate all your responses. Thank you. Appreciate the comment and appreciate you for joining in." All right, so guys, if I know there's still some other questions that came through that I didn't have a chance to answer here, but if you would like to chat, feel free to reach out. I have my contact information down in the description below this video. And if you're on Facebook, feel free to friend request me. And you can also join us over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group, right? It's an online community. It's free to join the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook group. Just do a search for Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding, and you can request to join. And this is a great way to keep that conversation going throughout the week. And a lot of people, ask questions, share comments about their workouts, share exercises, supplements, nutrition tips, whatever. A great way to just be part of the community there, and a great way to keep in constant contact in between these video chats. So if you want to reach out, feel free to join us over there. And if you're not on Facebook, but you would like to reach out, you can send me an email. I'd be more than happy to have a chat with you that way. And for any of you who are looking for some coaching, whether that's in person or if you want some help with a customized training and nutrition program, feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss that as well. And in the meantime, have yourself a fantastic weekend, and I look forward to chatting to you next Friday. Same time, same place. We're going live at 5 with the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat. Have yourself a good one. Take care. Over and out.